What I decided to do was to look at ways that forest fire and bark beetles interact. How does the burn injury that a tree sustains in a fire, how does that affect whether or not they get attacked by bark beetles? The beetles liked the medium rare trees. If they're burned too badly, there wasn't enough food for the beetle's larvae in the tree, and then if they were not burned at all, then the trees could actually fight off the beetles. With my data, I was able to put together a model that land managers could use to help them predict the probability that if you have a tree that's been burned in a fire, it has a high or low probability of then being attacked by bark beetles. Dr. Korb, my advisor, encouraged me, well, why don't we try to publish this in a peer-reviewed journal? And eventually it got through and my paper was published. I think that having the opportunity to become a published researcher as an undergrad is a huge step forward if you're planning on applying for grad school or other positions, to be able to say, I'm already a published scientist.
My senior research is based around community gardening, but more specifically Indigenous community gardening. It goes into traditional ecological knowledge as well, and the loss of that during boarding school times. And so now I'm working with a group on campus who are creating a Indigenous garden. And we're kind of thinking, okay, how do we heal from past traumas? So it can go from vegetables to flowers to native plants that are in the area. I come from Crown Point, New Mexico, and that is a food desert. You have to go an hour away in every direction to find a good grocery store. Living with that and coming here and learning about gardening and how to garden has really impacted me, and I just want to go back and share that as much as I can. For my honors capstone project, I am writing 3 personal essays. They're all 3 centered around grief, so that's kind of the tying thread between the 3 personal essays. One essay is about my experience losing my father, who passed away a few years ago. Another essay is about naming grief and the many ways to name grief. And the third essay is about my experience during the pandemic, because I was a senior in high school, so I didn't really get to finish high school, and then I started college during the pandemic, so there's a lot of grief around those experiences. I really get to dive into what is grief, what is my grief, what does it look like, and how are those experiences opening other people's eyes to empathy and understanding other people. Well, I actually, in my email signature, I have a Longfellow line, "Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul." Not spoken of the soul, that is only spoken of the body. So basically, there is more out there, and just because somebody has died doesn't mean that they are gone completely. And I love that.
My research entails water quality, specifically microbial health in water environment. After the Gold King mine leakage, a concern was brought up to the health of our water quality here in the San Juans. And we know that there's a deep mining history here, and so it creates a very specific environment. There's a small clade of microbes, acidophiles, that can actually live in this harsh environment, but we're curious as to how these guys affect their environment and if they're of any concern to us or if they could have positive effect in cleanup. I applied for a grant in the fall of 2022, I believe. There was a caveat with this Pay It Forward grant is that I had to take a speaking class that was tied with this in the spring. We already had a semester of research behind us, and then we had a semester ahead to sort of build our talk and get comfortable with how to present this research. I think it's super important for scientists to be able to communicate with the general public. Bottom line is people are going to listen to the most calm and collected voice, and if that's not us, then it's going to be that's unfortunate.
When you're coming up with a brand identity, you want to understand the brand you're designing for. So the one that I was designing for, it's a music festival called Tomorrowland. We started from ground zero, which was like, we're redesigning the logo, and we're redefining a color palette. We also made maps, tickets, and schedules, and a website, and we made merchandise. So essentially what we were doing was like rebuilding the festival from the ground up. Researching the festival, where it takes place, the demographic, all of the statistics are just as important as they are in STEM, because we want to consider who we're designing for and who's going to be consuming what we're making, essentially. When you're making a brand identity, your focus is creating a logo and a color scheme that sets it apart from its competitors. Design at its core is about connection to other people. I have always been very meek. By coming here and by being involved in the art and design department, I discovered that I am so much more powerful and capable than I ever thought I could be, which was really nice.